Hello, I'm Jenny Hoff, the Communications Director for the City of Bee Cave, and we're going to talk today about emergency preparation for potentially another ice storm in the future. So we are here with some of the experts, Jason Homan, Henry Marley with WCID 17, and with Paul Harvey, Emergency Management Coordinator for the Hills, the City of Bee Cave, and the City of Lakeway. We have a lot of tips to share with you today, and we're going to even take you around a house in the area so you can see hands-on what you can do in your home in case of an emergency.
You need to be prepared to be on your own for 72 hours, and that's not that hard. Pick these things up as you go to the store. Just every time you go to the store, just pick up one or two things. Water is always great to have. It takes a lot of water. A gallon a day per person is generally how the good rule is on that. Canned soups, rice, pasta, these are some of the great things to have in your home, and it doesn't really take a lot just to pick up a few items here and there. Just have a good flashlight with you. Ones that even crank are even great too, but if you have flashlight, make sure you check the batteries. And it's always great to have batteries set aside. Just it doesn't take much to just set some aside from your normal supplies. Having a first aid kit, your acetaminophen, your Tylenol, your aspirin, your ibuprofen, your Benadryl. Benadryl is great to have on hand just in case you do have an allergic reaction of anything. Solar powered radios that can pick up the weather information on them. These things are cheap. It also has a hand crank. Another thing to have set aside is power chargers for your phone. Having some blankets set aside. You don't have to get emergency blankets, but these are great. But also just some blankets that you have in the house. Just set some aside over in the corner that you can have in case of emergency. These things are people can do every day to help prepare yourself for the next disaster.
So one of the most controversial questions that comes up during any sort of freeze event in Central Texas is whether or not we should drip our faucets. One of the things that all water providers saw throughout the entire state of Texas during this recent freeze event was that usage rates spiked because of dripping faucets. And if every home in a 45,000 resident district is dripping their water at a couple of thousand gallons a day, it's millions upon millions of gallons that we didn't anticipate the community would need. And then we run into a problem where we don't have enough for everyone's actual needs. If you have an earlier home, say 1950s cottage style or camp style home, then yes, I would trickle flow my faucets, because a lot of those homes, they install the piping against the exterior wall with very little, if any, insulation. If your home was built after the 1980s, the vast likelihood is that your home is insulated well enough that you shouldn't have to worry about the interior pipes freezing. If you are able to keep your home heated throughout the freeze event, then I would not be concerned at all, and I wouldn't believe that trickling my faucets was necessary. I didn't trickle them at my own home and didn't have a problem.
On a typical home, normally the meter is out by the street. Anything in here belongs to whatever municipality it is, and they generally do not want you in that area. This is kind of a typical setup in our district. This is district property here. This is customer property here. You have your customer cutoff valve and your pressure regulating valve. As you can see, this customer, their cutoff valve is actually buried with grass that's overgrown and dirt and mud. So you want to, before the storm hits or whatever, or any time really, you want to open that up and clean all the dirt out and make sure that you can turn that valve on and off. Winter storm like we had last year, knowing that it's going to last, maybe 4 or 5 days, I would come out here and shut it off at the beginning, and then I would go into the house and I would start opening up all the lines and drain all the water out.
I would do that upstairs as well as downstairs, not allow all of the water level in the home to trickle down to this level, and it should minimize any potential for freezing in the home, because the water within the pipes will have room to expand. The problem you have if you don't do that is that the water is hydraulically locked in between all of these fixtures and it has nowhere to go, and when it freezes it wants to expand, and that's what cracks your pipes. Turn the water heater off first, and then you would drain that as well. If you have a water softener, some of them also have a drain feature on them, and you would want to drain that as well, because those are often out in the garage, which may not be insulated. So you should have an automated sensor on your pool system that tells it when it gets down around 35 degrees outside to go ahead and turn the system on automatically and keep it running 24 hours a day. But if you don't have that, you're going to want to manually come out during a freeze event and turn on your pool system and get those pool pumps running, because as long as water is circulating through the pipes, you shouldn't have a freeze concern.
In a weather event, you want to make sure that you drain this device, because obviously these things are very expensive, and if you leave water in them, the brass will crack somewhere, and then it can't be repaired. It has to be totally replaced. You should have a main valve that you can turn off to the irrigation, and then once you have it off, you can open this up and drain this whole system here down to this point here. Obviously make sure these are off. Come in here and open up one of these ports here just to make sure everything drains out. They sell these covers that are basically just insulated and protected, that normally would just fit all the way over this device. Okay, once you have this cover over the RPZ, you buy like a bag of mulch and put it at the very bottom to make sure that no air gets in here whatsoever. And then if you do all that, then you should be protected.
One of the other things we can think about during a freeze event is our outdoor spigots. So you can use something as simple as a dish rag from your home. Just take it, wrap it around, something as simple as something like that, and put a plastic bag over it, and that will insulate it enough. This is honestly how I insulated the spigots in my own home during Winter Storm Uri last year, and they all survived the freeze event. Just a few degrees of insulation will preserve these outdoor faucet fixtures.
FEMA, that has a great website called ready.gov. It actually has checklists, it has handouts, it has things to do to make sure you prepare for these emergencies. These kind of things are powerful tools to make sure that you are better prepared.